our community here in Melbourne. And hopefully, please God, we'll get you out to this side. Have you been to Australia or?
Never been. I've been close, actually, a few times.
Maybe in 2027 when we can travel again.
Right.
We can bring you out, yeah. But Simcha, as for those of you who saw the Facebook ad, he's an internationally known speaker and, of course, the best-selling author of Up, Up, and Oivei, How Jewish History, Culture, and Values Shaped the Comic Book Superhero. He's also written a book, Stick Shift, Jewish Humor in the 21st Century. He's appeared on CNN, the NPR, and incredible things. He's written columns, and I think you're currently writing another book. Is that right?
It is right.
And the book is called The Case for Children: Why Parenthood Makes Your World Better is now out. That's it. So the third book, unbelievable. Kol hakavod. So Simcha, it's really awesome to have you here with us. And there's actually a lot more people signed up to be with us. So I think people will slowly come in, but people will certainly watch afterwards, and I'm sure people are watching on Facebook. So thank you for joining us. And as I said, we'll have to invite you back here again for an actual physical tour of Australia. I think it would be very popular, to be honest. Someone's just messaging me. They lost the link. Can I send them the link? So I'm going to give them the link while we're talking. And so tonight's talk will, the comic book grabber, Simcha, will talk, and then you're happy to have a little bit of a dialogue and some questions. If people have any questions or comments, they're more than welcome to put it in the chat. Is that okay?
I'm in.
You're in? Good man. All right, so I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You can hear me? I'm good?
Thumbs up.
Okay, very good. I got thumbs up from Ben. Okay. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here. You know when they say that I just rolled out of bed? Well, I literally just rolled out of bed about 2 minutes ago. So I have coffee. I'm working on it, but you'll have to bear with me. It's pitch darkness. It is 6 a.m. But anything for the good Rabbi. And I have a big love of Australia. I grew up in England, and I grew up watching all of the Australian shows. So this is Melbourne or Sydney?
It's Melbourne, yeah.
I have a big affinity to anything Australia. Okay, what day is it right now?
Before you start, just curious, how are things in New York with coronavirus?
How are things in Corona? They are exponentially better. I mean, it was absolutely devastating what was going on. We were hearing an ambulance maybe every 4 minutes. It was absolutely horrifying. It is a lot calmer now, which is in itself a little. It makes you worry some because everyone is suddenly going back to school. Everything is opening up now, and we hope it continues this way. But thank God, it's really a lot calmer. Although I think people have been affected in ways that have not even manifested themselves yet. I think to be isolated for so long, to be distanced for so long, I think we've lost so many that this is something that's going to be in the conscience for the rest of our lives. So it's been a roller coaster. All right, Rabbi.
Just to give you a little bit of heads up, we've just been in very serious lockdown the last 5 weeks. We were supposed to go out of lockdown in a week's time, and the premier of our state had an announcement today, which has quite a depressing announcement. We're going to be in lockdown for some time. No services on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and probably not on Sukkot at all. So this is a great talk to just hear a little bit of a different angle, a little bit of different life. So thank you for joining us tonight or in your morning.
No, right. New York is certainly, I don't know if there's some sort of immunity, but they're definitely, I think it's 0.4% right now. So we're definitely in a much better place where we have to keep that going now. I know my kid just went back to school, and it's a whole different world. Everyone's wearing a mask. The teachers are behind screens. It's a whole different situation. I mean, it really is. Okay, so this morning, apparently, The topic is Jewish influences on superheroes. I'm getting the nod, Rabbi. It's very surreal to be doing this, but I got to get into lecture mode.
Yeah.
Who's this over here? Ben, how's Ben? Where's Ben? Ben was there. Okay, Connor is there. I got a thumb up from Ben. Paul, how's Paul? Paul and Danielle. Okay, very good. We're getting there. We're getting. Chaim. Ben is drinking scotch. What time is it right now in Melbourne?
8:07 p.m.
It's a crazy world. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so I'm not sure. I see the rabbi a lot on Facebook. He seems very active. He seems like a cool rabbi. Seems like a kind of guy I'd like to one day meet and get together with. But I think perhaps, unlike the rabbi, I certainly did not grow up in a Chabad family. I didn't grow up Orthodox, observant, Hasidic. For want of a better word, Rabbi, I grew up normal. No offense, regular. I'm from Manchester, England. Certainly not a New York native. I am an English native, fanatic soccer fan. And when I grew up, you know, my religion growing up was, I guess, pop culture. It's really, I had a love of pop culture. I worked in the film industry for some time. And that was really, for me, I grew up with the heroes of comic books. That was really, in essence, my synagogue and my culture. And L'chaim.
Chaim.
It's tea, by the way.
The root.
I'm from England, so it's tea. Okay, so I'm from Manchester. It's a very famous quote that Mark Twain, he once wrote he'd like to spend the remaining days of his life in Manchester. And he went on to write because he feels like it'll make the transition to death easier. So that's Manchester, England. It's grim. It's grim up north. I got Jesse over here. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Richard. Hello, Mandy. Hello, William. Hello, Hannah. So after a long journey, which is a whole lecture in itself, we'll do that in person, Rabbi. I kind of moved from becoming, my background is actually in the film industry. I worked for a number of years in the film industry, but I ended up becoming a rabbi, and I work today as the chair of religious affairs at the renowned New York Art School Pratt Institute. So a very prominent school, actually in Brooklyn. They're really number one for the arts and film, fashion, photography, architecture, graphic design. And when I first became the rabbi at Pratt, you know, I tried to connect with the students. I tried all of the shtick, Rabbi. I still try. Don't get offended with me. You know, the Shabbos, kosher, holidays. And students would look at me, they'd say, you know, Rabbi Simcha, you're a fun guy, but, you know, this is art school over here. Give us the arts. So I started to talk about the synthesis of popular culture and theology. And I noticed my classes started to grow, and especially if we were serving sushi. So I wrote my first book, which was really a collaboration. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Richard. Which was a collaboration of me and students over copious bowls of chicken soup at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I wrote a book called Up, Up, and Oivei, How Jewish History, Culture, and Values Shaped the Comic Book Superhero. And it was a passion project, and it literally became somewhat of a runaway bestseller. For a while, Batman was paying the mortgage. It took me all over the world. It took me to every TV and every radio station, and it was really quite, I mean, other books, crickets, but this still, to this day, has a little bit of a life of its own. So I'm not sure how much the Chevra on the call is aware of the Jewish influence on superheroes. We're going to go through it. I was the first person to make the connection, to write about it. So we're going to go through, this will be a little bit of a history class, a little bit of a cultural class, a little bit of a Torah class, and then we can do Q&A, as the rabbi said, or as I say, Jew&A. And Rabbi, you'll give me the nudge if I should be changing anything, moving along, faster, slower.
We're all good. People still look interested. It's good.
It's 6:11, so you got to bear with me. Okay, so basically, you know, the all-American superhero, which has captured the imagination of the world, we just lost the actor Chadwick Boseman, who was played Black Panther recently. We'll talk about the Jewish influence. There actually is a very prominent influence on Black Panther. We'll talk about that soon. But the all-American superhero was in fact created by Jews solely. In fact, does anyone know? Everyone's muted, right?
So let them chat. Let them type in the chat box. That's fine.
I see the chat box. Okay, this is great.
If they want.
All right. Oh, William just asked me privately, Manchester City or United? Okay. City, all the way. I'm a fanatic City fan. In fact, the second they became Shomer Shabbos, William, City started winning. It's unbelievable. If that's not a reason to become Shomer Shabbos, I don't know what is. I used to go every Shabbos. They never would win a thing. I become Shomer Shabbos. They're winning the league. They're winning the cup. They're winning the trophy. And now they may get messy. So I don't know what's going on over there. So, William, does anyone know the name of the world's first superhero? He appeared on Action Comics #1, 1938. The world's first superhero, his name is Superman. So Superman was in fact created by two Jews from Cleveland. Oh, there's 46 people. Wow. Okay. You're doing good work over here. Okay. So Superman was created by two Jews from Cleveland, Ohio, Jerry Siegel and Joseph Schuster. Can anyone guess? I'll put this in the chat. How much a copy of Action Comics #1, the first comic that had Superman on the front cover from 1938, can anyone guess how much a copy is worth today? Sold for 10 cents. Oh, William again. I think it's sold for 10, but it is. Ashley said it's worth $500,000. Okay, so a mint condition copy is worth around $2.5 million. So if anyone has, there are many people that have this document in their attic sitting there. So if anyone has a copy, talk to me, talk to the rabbi. I believe we can work out a tax deductible donation for the synagogue, but it's worth about 2.5. So, and right from the beginning, there was a very strong Jewish influence on Superman. In fact, in Action Comics #2, Clark Kent goes to an unnamed European location. He meets this guy named Adolphus Runyon, who's really supposed to be Adolf Hitler. You have to understand that the superheroes were created at a time of increased anti-Semitism. And this was really the way of their author. This was their author's way to fight back through the arts. In fact, Clark Kent meets Adolphus Runyon. He knocks down the pillars. He's put in an ancient pillared room. And he says a guy named Samson once tried to do this. And if you think I'm exaggerating or prophetizing or selling your book, you're right. It's available on Amazon. .au, whatever it is in Australia. But, there can be no bigger proof of Superman's Jewish roots than that. How about Bill Finger? He was the creator of Batman. Debbie, we're getting into Batman. Okay, so in fact, it's been said that Goebbels denounced Superman a Jew in the presence of Hitler, which is incredible. These two Pishers from Cleveland were able to go all the way to Berlin. And in fact, I'll give you one incredible quote in the Nazi SS weekly newsletter, Das Schwarze Korps. They wrote the following thing about Superman. They wrote, Superman's Jewish creators named the guy with the overdeveloped body and the underdeveloped mind, Superman. As you can see, there's nothing the Sadducees won't do for money. Woe to the American youth who must live in such a poisoned atmosphere and don't even notice the poison with which they swallow daily. Okay, it's an absolutely remarkable quote that, this is what the Nazis themselves were saying, yet all these years later, at 6:16 in the morning, I'm sitting here in Brooklyn talking to you in Melbourne about the legacy of these characters. And Superman was not alone. Debbie, followed 1 year later by Batman. Also, Debbie created by two Jews, Bill Finger. he was the real creator behind Batman. Okay, Debbie is already getting into the tachlis over here. Okay, so Batman was created by Bob Kane, who's actually a Cohen, and Bill Finger, as Debbie says. In fact, I'll give you one interesting thing, Debbie, that Bill Finger noted that Gotham City was actually based on the term Gotham Jewelers, the Jewish jewelry store where his mother worked. In fact, as Debbie says, that Bob Kane was not the best artist. He was a great marketer. He got a lot of credit for the character. But in fact, another Jewish immigrant, Bill Finger, did a lot of the work. In fact, there's another artist named Jerry Robinson, passed away a couple of years ago, a Jewish gentleman, who I had the absolute honor to sit at Comic-Con at the Javits Center. We did a panel together. And in fact, Jerry said to me that he wished I was his rabbi. It was a big honor because, I told Jerry that I get to pray to God, but for many people, you are a God. Not literally, right? Don't get nervous. Okay, so Jerry Robinson created the arch nemesis of Batman. Well, Debbie's going there. Okay, Debbie, does anyone know who is the arch enemy of Batman? William, I'm waiting for someone's got to know who the Joker is. So the Joker is Batman's nemesis. In fact, you are right, Debbie, that Bob Kane did get a lot of the credit and a lot of the guilt. And it's actually a very sad story that many of the comic book creators did not get the credit they deserved. In fact, Siegel and Schuster, that created Superman, sold the rights for $130, which is, if you can imagine that the character became worth billions. In fact, it was only later on when the movie came out with Christopher Reeves that there was a lawsuit. And in fact, they got their name again associated to their character, and they get a very small stipend. I believe it's the families get $20,000 a year. And Schuster actually, in his later years, was blinded and working in the DC mailroom at a company that literally he created. So yeah, as Debbie says, there is actually some of the real stories not quite as superheroics, but Jerry Robinson, who created the Joker, who I met on a panel, he became a friend of mine in later years. Jerry Robinson was actually holidaying at Grossinger's Kosher Resort in the Catskills, where he met Bob Kane, and they got talking, and it was actually based almost on like a Catskill Jewish borscht humor, which birthed the Joker. So the Joker does not come from deepest, darkest Gotham City, but in fact, the Jewish Catskill mountains. Quite ironic. And in fact, Bob Kane did say that Batman was sort of like the reflection of every fantasy he had as a Jewish immigrant, because Batman is one of the only superheroes. He has no superpowers, yet what's his power? His power is he has seichel, he has gelt, he's self-taught, he's self-motivated, and he's like Bob Kane said, he's like an immigration a fantasy figure. In fact, Batman was not alone. He was followed in 1941 by this guy. If anyone can see, I did get the rights to use images in the book from Stan Lee himself. We'll talk about Stan Lee later, but can anyone see this image? This is Captain America #1. Captain America was the first superhero to openly engage in the war. He was created also by two Jews, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. In fact, the front cover of Captain America #1, let me see if Paul and Daniel can see it over here. It's an amazing image. It shows Captain America smashing Hitler across the face. It's cute, it's funny, it's nostalgic. Could you imagine coming from immigrant Jews who are getting retching letters home from their family in the old country about the implosion? What a powerful portrayal of wish fulfillment this must have been. In fact, Jack Kirby, who drew this image and drew many of the comic books, many of the most famous ones we'll talk about, came from Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby was actually enlisted to fight for the Allies. He was sent to France where he would draw reconnaissance of the enemy. So it's an unbelievable thing that Jack Kirby, born Jacob Kurtzberg, the Jewish immigrant artist behind Captain America. In fact, the superheroes are really a manifestation and a reflection of the Jewish immigrant experience. Jack Kirby, born Jacob Kurtzberg, Stan Lee, born Stanley Lieber. It's amazing that these Jewish immigrants had one identity at home, another identity at work. They create characters who themselves have double identities. In fact, many scholars have noted that masks and clandestine experiences, it's really a metaphor for the Jewish immigrant experience. How often do we hide behind masks? How often do we hide behind costumes? L'chaim, l'chaim. The author Michael Chabon once said that only a Jew would think about a name like Clark Kent. So as many of their creators change their names, so too their creations also change their names.
Simcha, someone sent me a private question.
Yes.
They said that they read somewhere something to the effect of, I don't know if it was the Superman creators, but about seeing the image of their grandfather with a talus. Any truth to that concept?
I mean, it's been noted that perhaps like the cape, where they get the idea from the cape from, that, that a lot of these guys went to, but I will show you one incredible image. I believe this came from Jack Kirby. So there is Jack Kirby, they found in his studio, he drew this. It's funny you should say that. Let me go back to me. This is not from the comics, this is from his private collection. But Jack Kirby once drew this picture. This is Magneto, the arch enemy from the X-Men, wearing a talus over here. So, you're not totally wrong with the question. Here's another image from Kirby. This is the Thing from the Fantastic Four, lighting a menorah, wearing a kippah, davening from a siddur. So, if you think it makes sense because writers write about what they know about. And these Jewish immigrant creators were bar mitzvahed. They grew up in a Jewish storytelling home, rich in Jewish tradition. So they would express that tradition, certainly in their creations. In the 60s, superheroes evolve. They become, I guess, less clandestine. It's interesting that if anyone is a fan of Stan Lee, I'm sure you're all familiar with Stan Lee. Get thumbs up from Debbie. So in the 60s, Stan Lee creates the Fantastic Four. It's a very different type of superhero. It's a superhero family. And there's one character, I wish I could if I was in person, I could put this on a screen, but Stan Lee creates a character called the Thing. You're all familiar with the Thing. He has like a rock-like substance on his body. His name is Benjamin Jacob Grimm. So Stan Lee and Jack Kirby create this character, Benjamin Jacob Grimm. And I'll give you the Jewish take that he grows up on Yancey Street, which is really supposed to be Delancey Street. And there's one issue. This is from an official Marvel comic. This is not me or the rabbi prophetizing. This is the real deal. But in the comics, the Thing goes to Yancey Street. He meets this gentleman, this Jewish immigrant he thinks is dead. The Thing stands over him and he says, let me see if this comes up in the comics over here, if you can see this. But in the comics, the Thing says, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. This is the Thing. He stands over him. The guy wakes up in the comics and says, I didn't know you were Jewish. And the Thing says, I figured there's enough problems in the world without people thinking Jews are monsters like me. He opens up the four of the Fantastic Four belt buckle. He brings out a Magen David, a Star of David necklace. He hands it to the guy who is just slack-jawed. So here you have, under the comic book costume, is his real identity. And the Thing was not alone, followed by this guy, the Incredible Hulk, also created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. In fact, the Hulk is based on many things, genetic mutation. It's really like sort of like the 60s, the fear of the atomic bomb. He's also based on the Golem, as you can see in the shadow of the Golem. The Hulk was supposed to be gray, but the gray wouldn't print. They made him green, gray like the Golem, the famous Jewish monster hero archetype. In fact, Stanley told me on the phone when I had the chance to interview him that he based the Hulk on the notion of the Jew in diaspora. The Hulk's not a bad guy. He just looks different. And people don't know how to deal with that, which is different. And because he's different, the Hulk only gets aggressive when he's bothered, you know, when he's persecuted. So the Hulk spends his whole life just searching for a quiet place to call home. It's my wife's Ruth Bader Ginsburg coffee cup over here. There's one issue where the Hulk goes to Israel. He meets Sabra, the super heroine of Israel. And in fact, the Hulk and Sabra have a fight right here by the Kotel. And Sabra pummels him with powerful punches and vicious metaphor. Okay, there's a few more comics I'd like to go through before we can do Q&A, Rabbi. But we're now up to my favorite superhero. He's a teenage superhero. His name is Peter Parker. I'll give you the Jewish take on Spider-Man, Rabbi. It's a bit thin, but it is 6/26 in Brooklyn, New York. So Spider-Man, his middle name is Benjamin, grows up in Forest Hills, Queens, goes to Columbia, 30% Jewish, and he's entirely motivated by guilt, which is very Jewish, Rabbi. Okay, does anyone know why is Spider-Man such a guilty superhero? Anyone know in the chat? Why is Spider-Man riddled with guilt? And I know you've seen the movies. By the way, the rabbi only watches the movie on the plane. That's officially where rabbis watch movies. Yes,
rabbis seem to be flying a lot with all their movie knowledge.
I trust me, I spent many hours on the plane as a kid. Okay, so Spider-Man is very guilty because he uses his powers frivolously. He's the world's first superhero that's a teenager. And as a teenager in Manchester, England, who suffered from anti-Semitism, as we did on the bus home from King David, when the kids from St. Monica's would chase me and steal my bag, I really connected to Spider-Man because he's like this teenage superhero, and but he's awkward. He's got angst. He's got insecurities. He's been called Seinfeld with webbing. And in fact, Spider-Man's using his powers frivolously, and his beloved father figure, Uncle Ben, is killed, and he's shrouded with guilt. And Stan Lee wrote the most famous line in all of comic book canon, the most famous line, with great power comes, I can hear it, great responsibility. It's a very famous line. And Stan Lee asked me once, is that in the Torah? I didn't know what to say because it's Stan Lee. So I told him it's in the small print. It's in the Midrash. So with great power comes great responsibility. So we see from this that, in fact, Stan Lee told me that he kind of based that idea on a notion of post-Holocaust guilt. That so many people, I'm in the private chat. How do I get to the public chat? Whatever. I'm in the private chat here. All right, very good. All right. So we got private chats going on, Rabbi. Okay. So what do you think about Havel? Good question. It's one of the many books I have that I haven't quite read. So I don't have a massive, but I know the author of the book. And I think it's the fact that people are using the medium to spread a Jewish idea, I think is amazing. So Stan Lee told me that this post-Holocaust guilt is something that he put into Spider-Man. And Rabbeinu Daniel, the idea of post-Holocaust guilt is really taken to the next level in the X-Men. If anyone's familiar with the X-Men, who has a character called Kitty Pryde over here, who lights a Yortzeit candle in the Marvel comic when her boyfriend Colossus is killed. Rabbi, I'm Bal Tshuva. I don't know what halacha says when your mutant alien boyfriend is killed. I'm going to leave that to Rabbi Daniel. Is going to do a class on whether to light a yortzeit candle upon the death of a mutant alien boyfriend. But I think it's amazing that these ideas are literally in mainstream comics. I just want to give you the spiel on X-Men, and then we can sort of open it up a little bit. But the X-Men around the age of bar mitzvah, puberty, suddenly discover that they're mutants, they have powers. People don't know how to deal with mutants. And there is a split amongst the X-Men. How do we deal with the world? And the bad guy of the X-Men, his name is Magneto, who in fact in the comics is Jewish. He was written, his backstory comes from Chris Claremont, who's Jewish, lives in Park Slope. In fact, we did a documentary recently for Disney Plus. If anyone's got Disney Plus, they can see the documentary. It's coming out soon about Jewish influences on superheroes. So Magneto is a Holocaust, he's the bad guy, but he's a Holocaust survivor who had to help the Nazis in the comics kill his own family to stay alive. So it makes him, he's complicated. He's an anti-hero, but we can sort of see a little bit the motivation behind Magneto. The first movie, X-Men 1, began in Auschwitz. It's an unbelievable, could you imagine a mainstream superhero movie begins in Auschwitz, deals with Holocaust guilt. It's a very powerful idea. There's nothing comic about a comic book. And they're quite, in fact, it's been said that the superheroes are the Shakespeare of the 21st century. It's great for me, bad for everybody else in the world. And the Library of Congress boasts over, I think it's at this point, hundreds of thousands of comic books. So it's very popular. But what I want to do is I want to make it a little interactive. Rabbi, you ready? I want to ask a question to everybody.
Yeah.
Question is Superman Jewish? I believe that was one of the titles over here. Is Superman, if you get it right, I will send a signed copy of Up and Ovey. If you get it wrong, I'll throw in one of my books as well. Shtick Shift didn't quite do as well. The Case for Children's been out for years, by the way, Rabbi. And Debbie says yes. Ashley says no. All right. It's exciting over here. Okay, so is Superman Jewish? We know his creators were Jewish. We know he, is based on many things. In fact, if anyone can remember the Passover Seder, if anyone was awake, although I don't think anyone's going to forget this past Passover, it's going to go down in history for many reasons. Hannah says yes. We got a 2 for 1. It's hotting up over here. I'm waking. By the way, I'm waking up. So far, I've been at a 3. If you think I'm loud, Rabbi, this is me at a 3. Just woken up. I'm slowly waking up now. I can go to an 11 over here. Okay, so I won't stand up though because I'm wearing my pajamas.
We've got another yes and 2 no's.
I'm not very good at maths, Rabbi. He doesn't have a Jewish pun in. They say the costume is so tight you can tell he's been. I'm not going to finish that. Okay, we're on Facebook. Okay, I'll move on. Okay, so in fact, if anyone can remember the Seder, you'll know. Like, what's the story of Passover? As Egypt implodes, baby Moshe Rabbeinu is put in a reed basket. He's sent away down the Nile by Pharaoh, who's in denial. He grows up in a foreign culture, foreign land, becomes the savior of humanity. What's the story of Superman? As Krypton implodes, baby Kal-El, which is Hebrew, Kal-El, Kliel, the voice of God, the vessel of God, El being the name of the prophets, his father's Jor-El, Kal-El, Jor-El. We know the prophets, Michael, Daniel, Emmanuel, Daniel, as one of the prophets over here. So as Krypton implodes, baby Superman's put in a little rocket pod, sent away to a foreign culture, foreign land, grows up in a Midwestern cornfield with the Kent family, which is incredible because at the same time, Jewish children were being sent away on kinder transports to live in safety, security, and with families. So here you have Superman, Jewish creators, based on Moshe Rabbeinu, clandestine Jewish name. So is Superman Jewish? I got it. 1, 2, 3. It's a bit of an even. I think it's even Steven. I personally believe the answer is a very emphatic, very definitive. Jesse, Melvin, and Ashley, you are on the nose, because I think no, I did set you up for those that said yes. I don't think Jews are superheroes, and I don't think superheroes are Jewish. I think you should be very careful when rabbis with beards as long as mine jump on Zoom at 6 o'clock in the morning and preach and proselytize through popular culture, putting words in the mouths of people who are no longer alive to defend or deny those words. It's tacky, it's trite. Who writes a book like this? It's available, by the way, at Amazon, wherever good books are sold. They're not Jewish because they're not real. Superman is a fictional alien. I've been all over the world talking about this topic. It's incredible. I've seen people engage in lightsaber tournaments at 3 o'clock in the morning in San Diego. He's not Jewish because he's not real. People ask me, Moses, Superman, what does it mean? It means get a girlfriend. However, he may not be real, but there are real Jewish values. There's no doubt he was created by, Jewish artists. There's no doubt that Superman's ethics, morals, and values are Jewish ethics, morals, and values, just like the Jews were perhaps very involved in many American entertainment industries clandestinely. So too, the comic book is no different. And I wrote the book because I wanted these authors. I wanted their stories to be known. I wanted someone like Stan Lee, his story. Stan Lee's, I honestly believe that Stan Lee's perhaps the most important cultural contributor to this world perhaps has ever seen. They did a study, by the way, after Stan Lee passed away. If you count all his books, movies, TV shows, video games, Stan Lee has extracted over $2 from every single person on planet Earth. That is the level of influence that Stan Lee. I was getting messages from all over the world when he passed away. That's the influence that he had. So I wanted to give some credibility, some credence to their legacy. However, perhaps one of the lessons we can learn from superheroes is that we don't have to live behind double identities clandestinely, L'chaim. That just like the superheroes, hide behind costumes, so too very often throughout Jewish history, we've had to hide behind costumes, masks, name changings. We don't have to do that anymore. We can be super on the outside, super on the inside. We can be real Jews on the outside, real Jews on the inside. We don't have to hide. We don't have to hide behind Calvin Klein. We can always put on a talit and connect to some real historical garb. Hannah says the Wizard of Oz was also a creation during the Holocaust. The ring, I've heard that. Yeah, the rainbow somewhere over the rain. It's good stuff over here. Okay, so I did want to make one mention that they tell the story. I'll put on my yarmulke for a second. I don't even know what time it is. You're 24 hours ahead, 12 hours ahead. I don't know what day it is, but it is on the Jewish calendar. We're getting to Chai Elul. It's the life of Elul. It's in the Jewish calendar. It's actually the day of the birth of the Baal Shem Tov, who really, I guess, vital. It was a superhero amongst the Jewish people, really revitalized Judaism. So I just want to put on my yarmulke and say it's tonight, Sarah Rabin, which is now. Right, she's good. Good crew over here. Okay, so I want to say they tell the story of, I guess this would be pre-corona, of the little girl who's walking through Central Park. She's holding in her hand the string of a shiny red balloon, which is hidden in the clouds above. And she walks past the cynical banker who says, you know, what's the end of the piece of string? And she says, it's a balloon. Can't you see? And he looks up. He says, all I see are clouds. How can you prove to me what's the end of your piece of string? And she looks at him with the innocent eyes of a child. And she says, that's easy, mister. Every once in a while, I feel a tug. So every once in a while, you feel a tug, you feel a pull to connect, to belong, to be super on the outside, to be super on the inside. You know, thank God we don't have to hide behind masks anymore and double identities. So I want to give everyone a blessing and a bracha, firstly for health and happiness, that this terrible plague, which the whole world is feeling right now, should really be a thing of the past. And just as we're getting to a new Jewish year, that the end is wedged in the beginning, and hopefully all the blessings, all the brachas should really be very profound, be very real, be very revealed. We should have a year of blessings and brachas, and hopefully I'll be able to come to Australia. I was going to ask me privately, Rabbi. I was close. I got nervous. I was close. But hopefully we can see each other for reals. And as the rabbi said, it's very, it's hard to gauge the crowd when it's a one-way discussion. A little bit like marriage over here, just talking to a screen. But if anyone has any questions, I want to be a little more interactive. We have time. We could do a Q&A, or as I say, a Q&A. So I want to wish everyone l'chaim, l'chaim, up, and ovei, l'chaim.
L'chaim, thank you so much. So yes, a number of questions which would be good to sort of discuss with you that are coming through. And then maybe soon we'll let people unmute. It just gets a little bit chaotic, but we'll try it anyway.
I like chaotic, Rabbi.
I'm sure you do. And I wonder if that's tea or whiskey in your cup over there.
This is tea. I can prove it, Rabbi.
No.
I got tea.
All right. So
I'm English. I drink tea. I can't do the coffee.
Tell me something. Are you a cricket fan at all or no?
Not at all, but I know it's big. I know the Aussies are big.
Yeah, we're playing Australia. We're playing England tonight.
Bring it on, baby.
The T20.
Bring it on.
We lost over the weekend to England.
Good.
All right. So question number one.
Okay, were EC Comics Jewish too? And the answer is I'm not sure. They were horror stories, ironic consequences of bad behavior. I have to, I'm not sure. What would Superman have to say about the pandemic and the COVID restrictions in the US, Israel, and Australia? I'm scared that question has a hint of politics. I don't like to talk about politics or religion because they both get me in trouble every time. So I think Superman would say, be safe and follow truth, justice, and the American way. We'll move on. Favorite type of tea from Jesse. Although it's a good. In fact, Superman was used as a what's that term? He was used as a tool by the government as propaganda. So I actually think that propaganda is a frightening term, but we can. I love these comments right now. Yorkshire tea is the best. Estelle Rosen, I like Tetley, a good Tetley tea with a nice biscuit dipped in. So I'm a Tetley tea guy with a good jammy Dodger dipped in. But if you dip it too much, the biscuit breaks, and then you got to put your hand in, and you get burned. So Tetley. Never had Tetley beer, Mandy. Though I'm totally willing, totally able. But I definitely think, perhaps this, I saw a great line. Look, I'm not sure what Superman would say about the restrictions. And, I have an evolving opinion about the restrictions, but I certainly think that I will say one thing, that superheroes wear masks. And I have in my car my mask, so every time I get to go in a store or go shopping, I do get to be a superhero. And certainly the science seems to suggest that masks save lives. So we can all be a superhero for real. So that's what I'll say about masks. Certainly, you know, Judaism has a whole day of Purim, which is about masks and costumes. And I think it's no coincidence that this was one of the holidays that their creators did celebrate. It's a brand name available in supermarkets in Melbourne. I grew up watching Neighbours and Home and Away as a kid. I'd come home from school and we'd watch Neighbours and Home and Away. So I'm very connected to Australia. Kylie Minogue was dating Jason Donovan, Rabbi. You don't remember this. You were busy in yeshiva, but that was my childhood.
Very good. Now, Simcha, tell us, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman. Someone told me that I should say that I'm married to Wonder Woman, which I am. But where does Wonder Woman sit in all of this?
You know, I didn't mention Wonder Woman or Black Panther. Okay, so Wonder Woman is an interesting one. So Wonder Woman was not created by a Jew. I forgot the guy's name. It is 6:48 in the morning. Wonder Woman was created by a psychiatrist. And in fact, Wonder Woman was actually created as a propaganda tool to fight in the Second World War, to fight the Nazis. But I think there's one incredible thing, that Wonder Woman today, not only is your wife a Wonder Woman, as is my wife, but Wonder Woman is played today, if you've been on a plane, Rabbi, by Gal Gadot, former Miss Israel, who fought in the IDF. And I think it's absolutely incredible that Gal Gadot's grandfather was a survivor of the concentration camps, and that his granddaughter is playing a character who was created to fight the Nazis. So for me, the fact that, you know, Wonder Woman today is played by an Israeli actress, I think is absolutely amazing. And I must honorary mention to Black Panther. Black Panther was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I think he represents that in the 60s, when he was created, the idea of civil rights, that Heschel was marching with Martin Luther King, and the fact there was this sort of uprising of black civil rights, I think was in the Zeitgeist. I think it's kind of cool that T'Challa is actually spelled Chala, T'Challa. And just as the Ethiopian immigration to Israel was going on, so too Black Panther was first created by these Jewish immigrants. And I think perhaps there's a shared sense of persecution. And I think, you know, perhaps these two cultures that have suffered so much were able to sort of band together. So there is really a Jewish connection to Black Panther. And Chadwick Boseman, the actor who played Black Panther, his first cousin is a good friend of mine who's Jewish. The actor's not Jewish, but his first cousin is Jewish, George Boseman, and he goes to Chabad of Bushwick and learns Tanya. So there is 1 degree separation of characters. Asterix, not Jewish. Those are fighting words. I'm not sure which ones, but I'll move on from Jesse. Jesse's tough. I'm glad I'm on Zoom right now. It's good.
All right, next question. Going back to what you said, I think
the Earl Grey comment. Yeah, I like Earl Grey. Yeah, Oolong's great. It's a great tea. I love the way I spent like years writing this book of preparation. I researched it. I worked hard. I've been over the world, and all people want to talk about is tea, Rabbi. But I actually respect that. Tetley tea is a great tea. Yeah. What's this one?
What do you think when these guys create? Obviously,
no, Bigelow. This is Bigelow, Rabbi. What do I think? You've
touched on why you think they created these characters. I mean, obviously, you know, Holocaust is going on. Would you think it was there to try and sort of give some sort of inspiration and hope to the people?
I think the answer is very sad, succinct, and simple. I think there was no jobs. Jews that had autistic talents couldn't get jobs. There was tremendous anti-Semitism. Jews were barred from country clubs, Ivy League schools, even entire neighborhoods. And I think the comic book at that time was a joke. It was given away for free. It was a pulp comic in the middle of a newspaper. There were no barriers to entry. And essentially, that's why the Jews got in, because it was one of the only industries. Actually, it's also a lot of Italians got in, because there was no other industry they could get into. And where there's no industry, we make an industry, whether it's film, fashion, all of these things. No coincidence, Ralph Lauren is a guy named Lifshitz. We can't get it. And I think you want to go deep, Rabbi?
Let's go for
Getting a nod? We can go deep?
We can go deep.
Okay, we can go deep. Americans don't have kettles. You have to make your own. They don't. It's not the same. In England, you got the teapot, you got the saucer, you got the spoon, you can put your biscuits on the side, rich tea biscuits. It's a big problem over here. Americans don't respect tea, William. It's a big problem. I'm with you on that. What a crowd. I like this crowd over here. Okay, so let's go deep for 1 second. How do I put this? I don't want to offend anyone, but I feel like this is a good crowd.
When anyone ever says, I don't want to offend anyone, you know they're about to offend you, right?
When they say offend anyone, you know they're about to drop the bomb. Okay, so, I think look at Captain America. There's nothing more Jewish. In fact, no, take that back. There's nothing more American than Captain America. He's the flag embellished as a costume. Superman is all American. There's nothing Jewish about him. He's all American. He's Rockwell. He's Coca-Cola. He's apple pie. He's almost too American. He sort of represents the America that these Jewish immigrants wished to belong to. And he was such a powerful portrayal of America that America has adopted the Jewish fiction, the Jewish fantasy as their reality. I believe you can make the argument that the American dream is a Jewish invention. Rabbi, only a Jew writes a song like Easter Parade. Only a Jew writes a song like White Christmas. What it represents, it's almost like Hollywood. It's the fantasy, because these immigrants wanted to be all American. They'd suffered, so the Americana they created was so beautiful that America adopted, the fiction as reality. So I think really the American dream, to some extent, is a Jewish invention. Look at Ralph Lauren. It represents this American style of dress that is so American. It's more waspy than the wasp. It's more goyish than the goyim. I use that term affectionately. And it's a fantasy. And I think perhaps, I don't think they created it as Jewish. I think they created it as an escape from Judaism. But the masks, if you just peer behind the mask, you see something else that's going on. And certainly in the comics, there's so many hints to Jewish allegory, Jewish allusion. Rudolph the Red-Nosed. See, Debbie's on board over here. Debbie gets it. That's what I think.
Yes. Now, how comic books these days are comic books still being published and popular? Like, is that ended? Is that era finished?
Hannah gets it. Okay, it's a good crowd over here. Okay, are they still? Yeah, a lot of the art today comes from Japan. Actually, it's based on what's called manga, which is really a more of an extreme, violent form of art. I am not as down with the manga, but what's cool is that comic books, I guess the medium of the comic book, because people today are used to, we get our information from one of these, that everything, sorry, my cleaning lady. I think that, what was the question? Can't remember. We'll get there. The medium of graphic novel and graphic information is extremely popular. Today you have what's called the graphic novel. The graphic novel is serious comics. Also, the term pioneered by a Jew, Will Eisner, was the first person to term graphic novel. So I think the medium is totally, it has a life of its own now. It's used in classrooms, it's used in the boardrooms, it's used in politics. You'll see it in this election cycle. the idea of using pictures and imagery is very popular. In fact, Rabbi, I have a fourth book that I'm writing that is called Hipsid. Hipsid is the amalgamation of hipster and Hasidic, and it's really a memoir of my life because I'm a narcissist. I need a memoir. I'm 43. It's time for a memoir. So I have my own graphic novel coming out, almost like my own superhero without any superpowers. It's very mundane, but yeah, people use the medium.
Beautiful, beautiful, mate. So who's your?
Rabbi, got time for one more question?
Yeah, who's your favorite? Who's your favorite?
I'm going back to bed, Rabbi. It's 7 a.m.
Who's your favorite superhero?
My favorite is definitely Spider-Man. I don't know. There's something about the teenage superhero with angst, with insecurities. And as a kid, you know, I grew up. I think England is a little bit more like it's like Australia and South Africa. That even though I wasn't perhaps a frummer, I was very traditional. You know, I went to King David. I went. Rabbi, stop yawning. I went to shul on Shabbos. I got in the car. I went to the soccer. So yeah, I was always very traditional. And you know, I'd go to Hebrew school, and they would teach me, you know, the Jewish people, light unto the nation, chosen people. Then I'd get on the bus and I'd get bullied and wedgied. So it was this kind of like Spider-Man was someone that I really connected to, that had this sort of duality. And on the one hand, had superpowers. On the other hand, had insecurities and angst. So I very much resonated with Spider-Man.
Where did the spider idea come from? Did they write about that?
I have no idea. I think they're just looking for different things. In fact, in the book, I have a thing about the spider in the Torah, but I think it was just a way, you know. I think what's cool about Spider-Man is, I don't think they realize this, that there's no character that is so concealed, you can't even see his eyes. In fact, there is something about Spider-Man that it was a given. When they were writing Spider-Man in the 60s, it was a given he was Jewish. I spoke to one of the writers who was actually Italian. She said it was a given. He was like a New York Jewish, nebbish character. They couldn't say it overtly, but that was very much implicit in the character. And just as he tried so hard to hide his identity, I kind of connected to that because it's something that I did. My favorite superhero is Spock. Yeah, I hear that.
So as we take part from you, what words of encouragement can you give to all of us in Melbourne who've just been ordered into another few weeks or probably months of lockdown?
What words of encouragement? Well, you have a lot of time now to read my book. So I have 3 books. There's no excuses now. You're in lockdown. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to hide. I mean, look. Why do bad things happen? There's only one answer, and that's I don't know. And any rabbi that says they know is a used car salesman or trying to promote a cult, because no one knows. We don't know, but I do know that never before in human history has, you know, certainly in our history, has such an event occurred that, you know, we're forced to stay home right now. You've been, you know, the fact that you're quarantined. You can use that time to connect to faith, to connect to family. You have tools that you've never had before. So I'm less concerned with the why, you know, more concerned with the what and what can we do. And I've noticed that my kids who have adapted very normally, like they suddenly school's on Zoom and they're doing it. They sat there, they're doing it. Maybe there's a reason why they grew up with these things and now they're able to adapt. So I think we have to use this time to not just say, why me, and not watch 24 hours of news, because that's not a healthy thing. But I think it is a time to connect to faith, to connect to family, to connect to friends. I do believe this terrible plague is going to go away sooner rather than later. There's enough smart people in enough laboratories right now doing enough that I do think the vaccine is coming. I don't think, you know, in weeks, but certainly in months. But we have to just, you know, use this time because we're going to remember this time for the rest of our life. where were you? What did you do? What happened? So that time is now, and it's a new year. It's Rosh Hashanah. It's Chayalo. It's really a time to connect and not kvetch. So I think I want to bless everyone to make the most, of what's happening right now. And l'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim. So a big thank you to you for joining us, Simcha, and we appreciate you getting up 6 a.m. to share your words of wisdom. And I think you said it best. Let's stop kvetching as much, but it's part of our DNA a little bit, but we'll try our best not to kvetch. And we look forward to hosting you here in person, Bezrat Hashem. Thank you everyone for watching. There's still a full week of programs every night of the week. Look at our Facebook page, sign up for our WhatsApp or our newsletter, and we wish you all well. And Simcha, go back to bed, mate. Have a good night.